Hello, everyone. Welcome to tonight's episode. The title is The Future Commands Your Attention, and it really does. In tonight's episode, I am inspired more by emotion than idea. Throughout my life, I've had this vision that has come to me often. It's like uh, a memory for a different self, something like that. And it's this vision that there is this kind of, how do I say it? There's this there's like this alley, there's this alley and this whole neighborhood area I keep seeing in my vision, and there's this light. This is all in the inner realms. That means like I'm going about my normal day, and then I see the vision. I got the same vision when I lost 300 of these talks years ago. It was this feeling of needing to rush. You know, guys, I'm starting this episode personally, so it's the abstraction's gonna sound new. Let me see. I get this vision where this light from the sky comes down, comes right to like a meter away from the ground, then disperses between all the streets of some street I'm seeing in my inner realms, and there's this sense of hurry. There's this constant sense of hurry, and this sense of hurry is not linear. It's not out of a linear reality. You know, it's like sometimes in your subconscious you are experiencing events that you may like remotely become conscious of. You know, or a tiny percentage of it comes into your conscious mind. Guys, just so you know, it's 11:17 p.m. and I'm giving this talk right beside a NASCAR track. All right, we're stalling. I look at where I am now, and I kind of feel like an eagle that sees a phenomena, sees something from the inner realms, from the personal experience, from a branch, and then also sees things from a collective view. Sorry, guys, I'm kinda contemplating something. I'm trying to think what really I can say. I've kind of established in other talks that we are an attention, a presence beyond a personality. When I envision the future, I've kind of given it through a sense of a simple metaphor that it's like we start off from this individual savageness and then we become conscious of a collective possibility. So the future inevitably will be collective because it's going to be a reaction, a response to what we are now. So if we're individual object oriented conscious creatures, we can expect a future that at least is aware or moving towards that way. When you kind of look at history, it is a pattern. They say history repeats itself. And it's not just history, the seasons repeat themselves as well. There's many things I feel that if we could see right now who we are, we're an individual, so it's like a drop. Imagine events occurring, taking place on this planet, which is causing these drops, these human beings who are just basking in their own inner realms to extend forth, and then it would be the investment of 8 billion inner realms. Do you know? So I kind of see the evolution of the human being now is very linear. What does the human being do? Wake up, do a series of actions, go to sleep. Wake up, do a series of actions, go to sleep. Wake up, do a sequence of actions, go through sequence of moments. And if the future is collective, if the future is an ocean, it would be this cool idea that perhaps, like, what if in 10,000 years we would reach a certain heightened state? Imagine if we lingered that long as human beings. We would not just be interstellar, but we would also be non conceptual creatures. Because right now it's kind of energy conscious of itself in the human form, and we are like this human being studying energy, so eventually we will reach a point where our sophistication on how we are energy will be different. So if the future can, it's like now we're a conceptual creature, now I'm speaking to you through concepts. In the future there may be no need for voices because we don't know really the depths of the unknown mind. That means it's kind of strange. When you look towards the future, you kind of feel they're going to build advanced computers and they're going to connect everybody's head to one computer, you know. And you can also see pros and cons to that idea, you know. It has a good side as well. But you can also, you go and look to the ancient times in the past and you see all these mystics speaking about this oneness. And I'm like, what is this? Are we dancing around as creatures, fragmented, you know? Drops, and suddenly all these drops merge and become an ocean. I'm like, is history repeating this constant process where individual phenomena appears and then all this individual phenomena takes the collective place? Because look at it right now, your biological body is all these cells, and all these cells inevitably at the end of the day are administered by where your attention goes, and so if we think about humanity as this body where every human being is a cell in this body, it's as if, where is that human being going? Where is the great human? That means if I feel we should create this legend, the legend of the great human. Kids are being born. Who is this great human? Who is this great human? Only to realize it is the greatness of their species. It's not a person, it's humanity. That means the ultimate person is the whole systems movement. It's kind of like it's like you got to clear up. Let's say you got to clean your workplace, and so it's a situation where imagine you got boxes and boxes of papers where you've made notes throughout the years. Now these boxes, you can start by just cleaning one and taking all your time, the whole lifetime cleaning one box, but then seeing that most of the room is left. There is, two things I know about the future that I feel certain saying. One, the very future, it's a 50% chance of becoming advanced. Many things in this life are 50-50 because if you try it, there's a possibility. If you don't try it, there never was a possibility. Right now, human beings, their attention is to themselves. They go and they check their own social media, for example. They go and check every information that relates to them. It's like we are self centered human beings. But what if we reach a time in the future where imagine kids are online and the parent comes and says, imagine you have kids, you know, the parents like, what are these kids doing online? And suddenly sees instead of constantly being on social media trying to uh, be a fictitious avatar in cyberspace, we in some sense the child is not looking for the self, is reading the updates on the civilization. You see, something I noticed, and it may kind of be savage, but I'm so happy I was born at a time where movies exist. You see, there are anytime a big event is happening, it hits one side. Imagine like a war takes place, it hits one side of that nation first, you know. And so when the event becomes significant enough, everything aligns towards it. For example, during the times of war, the educational system was changed. In the 1900s, it's like they had Morse code, and people had to go from one bunker, memorize the information, and run to the other bunker and accurately relay the information. Right. So we can see that the educational system is a residue of what it's like. Nobody changed it after that. Nobody had an idea to change the educational system. It's so flawed and it's so ridiculous because it's like you see there is one teacher in the educational system and then there's a classroom of let's say 30 kids. Okay, there is technically 31 minds in that room, but the teacher only speaks, and the teachings are not interactive. That means if the child is gifted with their inner realms, they can remember, they can animate the like. Here's the thing: some people like the way I remember stuff is that when someone speaks to me, it evokes as an image. It evokes as an image. And so I'm thinking like imagine every couple minutes checking your phone, but you're not checking on your own information. You're just constantly seeing updates of the civilization. You turn on the news, it's like constantly news about great achievements, great technologies being made, constant celebrations. If we can make a celebration civilization, that means it's like we celebrate our way to existence. They're like, how did the human species do it? How did the human species surpass extinction? They celebrated. The future is really fascinating because when I look at my life and I look at my past, I know it. I lived through it. I know my past. It's past me. You know, when I look at my present, I'm experiencing it now, and that's fine and dandy. But when I look at the future, there's that unknown kind of spaciousness. Like, when you look at night at a forest, you know, and you see like the darkness between the trees. Some people feel there's beauty in light only, but there's also a lot of beauty in darkness. So guys, in the chat section, Dan says a drop landing anywhere in the pond ripples throughout the whole pond. Yeah. Also, the drop ceases to exist, so it gives off its ripple, and it's the ocean after that. I don't know what it is. I feel there is an honor missing in civilization. I see it in people. It's like the justifications of violence, savageness, and cruelty are much more. They're much more justified in this world. When it's like Hunger Games. That means people have to realize this language is the evocation of image. When you talk to someone, you can even just be quiet and when you listen to how they speak. I mean, probably anyone who's listened to me, um, it's like this. It's like every person's mind is a world generator, and when they speak, they are perceiving a world. You know, that means for me, honestly, I'm not kidding. It doesn't matter if it's an animal, if it's if it's on an insect level, if it's on a bird kind of small animal level, if it's on a human level, if it's the unfathomable, I don't know, invisible giant level. you know I'm telling you, everything based on how it moves is showing its code. I feel nobody can hide who they are. Even if they try, nobody can hide who they are, because at the end of it, it's as if there is nowhere to hide. Have you noticed? It's like there's no, it's like just the fact of thinking of the concept of, it's like I was thinking, why, what is, like, how do I say, how do we get 8 billion people interested in building an advanced civilization before they die? That's the riddle. That's the riddle. And for me, I'm like, okay, does this mean it's a game of assumption? There's this thing that I don't know. I kind of learned it through the ethnocentrism of the Persian culture I was raised. But there were certain people I would see, the way they would communicate is the person would communicate with an assumed friendly comfort. Do you know? That means I've seen people talk as if they are with. How can I tell you? It's like it's how you evoke the spirit of the moment. You know, I'm telling you, if you're a person who, in whatever situation of life you are, just try it out. Kind of before making a decision, wonder about the new. Just wonder about what you've never done. You know, the evoker of the new, whether it's through behavior, whether it's through the hyper precision of uh, the written word. You know, something is here, and we're wondering if in the future this separation between individual and world will remain. I feel it's going to fade. I feel that aliens have only like 10,000 years to make contact with human beings or will surpass our individualism, you know. I just thought of it. I'm like, maybe like we can call it the drone theory on knowledge. That just like how you can observe in three-dimensional space an object, you can unconditionally observe a subject. If I tell someone, imagine, a canoe, a tribal canoe hovering in the air, you know? Imagine you looked out the window and you saw just this tribal canoe, you know, uh, kind of hovering in the air across the street. You see, your inner realms could instantly evoke that. You could picture, you could visualize. You know, it's as if the person has an image of a canoe, the person has an image of a street. They can suddenly see those two images infused in one another. You know, the inner realms gives a strange permission, gives a strange observance where I kind of feel like my attention is like a drone moving over the landscape of every way my mind has moved to form, structure, or perceive it. Eventually, uh, the relationship with that language needs to change. I've often said that the next language, the next great language of all languages is geometry. Geometry is the next great language of all languages. The reason is because geometry can be a commonality of the inner realms. That means it's easier for the human being to visualize geometry. You know, if I tell you to visualize like a square, it's much easier than if I tell you visualize the Grand Canyon, you know, exactly with detail. You know? So geometry will be a subtler way where we move as an attention that feels the whole moment is its mind. Obviously, human communication has to change. I think the inspiration I had with uh, naming the title "The Future Commands Your Attention" is because there was this quote by George Breton where he says, "You must serve before you command." It's an incredible quote. It's like, to be honest, if you understand that quote, you understand mysticism. You understand this world like its nature. Because it was simple and then it awoke into complexity. Isn't it strange that we simply or became conscious? I find that before, I think it's archaic if we see things as just good and bad. If we think about the future and just think, guys, I'm joking with the NASCAR track. A motorcycle kind of drove by, and I don't know, I felt like making a joke out of it. I'm in Toronto, Canada, guys. It's like, you know, there's squirrels in the trees, you know. Totally opposite of a NASCAR. So let's say it's archaic, and when next time you see someone say, "Is this good or is this bad?" Be like, "Holy shit, man!" It's you know, it's like, why don't you update? And update to what? To a transition of good and bad just being images of guilt given by narrative, and rather it becomes efficiency and inefficiency with this view that you are on an island. Everybody listening to this, you know, it's like we watch the movie Castaway and we laugh, but we are on a rock in the middle of nowhere. You know, I mean, nobody really laughs when they watch Castaway, but you know what I mean. I mean, like we don't take it seriously, not realizing the whole planet is kind of, you know, a strange place. Honestly, I can't believe that I can believe. Like I can't believe it that there's beliefs, and I can't believe there is phenomena here. You know, sometimes I'm like I may be a simple person. I think I may have more minimalistic tendencies than others, but uh, for me, it's like after a point when your life is no longer based on idea, you actually come to a strange wilderness, and your inner realms, your outer realms and inner realms become both liberated. And I think I may be one of the very few people who at least has found a way to talk about this. You know, when I look at the future, on some level, you kind of look at the mystics, and they're like, it's like Advaita, non-duality. It's like, wait a minute, what if time is an illusion? We are such creatures that are trying to escape time. We've tried to do time travel. We've tried to go beyond time. We've been late to work. We have so many relationships with time. It's ridiculous. It's here's the cool thing: how the inner realms appear, and what's going to happen to the inner realms and the outer realms. And why I said that quote from George Platon: "You must serve before you come out," because um, there's this other saying they say uh, that the mind is a lousy master, but it's a good servant. Now, isn't that weird? From one angle, you gotta serve life, so you gotta climb from the bottom to the top, so then you can lead uh, all those because you've been through the levels. You know, kind of like someone who enters a company, let's say the mailroom of an agency, talent agency, and then the guy becomes the talent agency owner. He climbs up the levels and reaches a state where then it's like second nature to him because he's walked the walk. That means I realize that in this life there's actually no time for falsehood. There's no time for falsehood. That means it's like a performance which has a value behind your eyes to you only, and has a value to the world. The way I'm linking those two sentences, I said the one where the mind is a lousy master, a good servant, but and then as George Platon had said, you must serve before you command. The thing is, like, this is the thing. You open your eyes in this world thinking you're just a person, and thinking that the intelligence or this life sensitivity is just limited to you, because you are what's in front of you, so you are the most real object and subject of your attention. So it's kind of like living on this world thinking it's an empty room, thinking it's like, all right, we're in this weird room of space, and there's these galaxies and stars and stuff in it, and we're on one of these, tiny pebbles, and we're thinking of trying to, like, build an advanced civilization. That means it's like I'm not even seeing the attempt for it. It's still selfish savageness. It's still the concrete jungle phase, because people are language worshippers. You know, because it takes a strange intensity to actually see your eyes in a different way, and that intensity is, I'm telling you, sometimes you need to have the inspiration from before. That means I got offended by myself, technically, when I look back at it, that I realized I don't know, and I was honest enough to accept that I don't know. And that moment where I was honest enough to accept I don't know, I stopped being a thought, and everything changed. Everything changed from that moment. It was as if I could hear, or I could see how my sight moves before it moves. And that's why I had to kind of, I'm like, okay, what do we do? What do we do with where imagination happens and where memory happens? It's the same thing. So which one is it? Is memory imagination, or is our imagination our memories? Um, Guys, is the voice better now? Um, so Akai in the chat section, I really don't understand your sentence. Can you rewrite it in some way? So Dan says, "Do you ever find humor in absurdity?" Believe it or not, that's sometimes the only thing you can do with absurdity. So that's the thing. You know, we are in this grand performance of a lifetime, wondering, not knowing our nature. If we have a sort of the audacity to look at life without imposing anything in it, it will be raw experience. When you trust, when you abide by a trust in that raw experience, your intuition becomes your nature of compass, the compass of your nature. Then, then we can build an advanced civilization. Because let me tell you something strange. I have seen with too many situations of it where I'm not joking. I wouldn't be surprised if every being right now on this earth is actually a simulation from somewhere else. And I don't mean like a video, like a technological simulation. I mean, we are energy. But this energy, they say, think of it this way. It's like they say energy can't be created or destroyed, and it changes from one form to another. The best the future can be is an infinity symbol. At worst, it would never was there. Reality is so complex, so many different kinds of human beings, so many different DNAs kind of looking at life. Everybody being an antenna of whatever they perceive and they experience. There being certain rhythms in life. Sometimes I have wondered about the mystery of, believe it or not, what they call love. There was a time where I felt, not that I didn't feel like, I didn't feel love, but I'm telling you, I reached a point where I had dismantled the concept into pure emotion. Do you know? It was as if like I felt it was a wilderness. That when you love someone, it's as if something pulls you out of the you know constitution of your psychology. And believe it or not, the constitution of your psychology is signed is signed by every experience you have had so far. It's not advanced enough. Civilization is slow. Civilization has forgotten about beauty. Back in the day, there was this family, like the Medici family, and they were these wealthy bankers, and of course, their motives were questionable, but like these guys were smart. They were at least good, decent enough, and smart to. And what the Medici family did, what the Medici family did was that they were like, yo, we gotta make the streets of the city beautiful and epic so people will feel epic. People will feel amazing. You know? Terence McKenna gave humanity a great clue. At least I saw it as such. Terence McKenna was speaking about how an octopus, its language is how it changes color on its skin. That means its skin doesn't take the surface, the language, the sur- it doesn't. It does. It's not like It's not like a transparent creature, you know. It's like the octopus. Its language again is its color change, and its language is on its skin. And isn't it fascinating the way people have comprehended the world leads to their fashion sense, leads to their handwriting sense, leads to whatever style they kind of emerge through in this life. You know, it's weird. On some level, it's like civilization is a theatrical performance of temporary creatures, which it has an urgency, has a high priority, and then at the same time, you're also this unknown. It's like there's a known self and an unknown self, you know, and the unknown self is actually synonymous with the unknownness of the world, and it's the reemergence of the unknown, and it's going to be a cool time because we're going to kind of be a species. At least I've turned it from the third phase of evolution, we're going to the fourth. From a conscious self, we're evolving and going towards a conscious world. That means right now we're conscious as an individual part of the world, but imagine humanity reached a certain level of energetic comprehension of nature that man realized that he was never man, he was never the concepts of his conditioning. Because if an alien comes down and the aliens, let's say, you know, it's like the alien tells us, let's say somehow the aliens like, what do you know, human beings? And we're like, we don't know anything, bro. And you just got here after we thought the whole universe was empty. Tell us what's up. The mind is endlessly opening up to reality, and the future generations don't realize the effort for their simple steps. You know, there is this. Somebody mentioned absurdity. When I think of absurdity, my mind goes to the work of Albert Camus. So, who was it who talked about absurdity? Dan. Dan, go check out a documentary on who Albert Camus was. Albert Camus was what I consider to be not only a very conscious person, but he has one of the greatest writing styles. He has a sort of freedom in his inner realms, which is fascinating to see. You know, like there's a quote I heard from Albert Camus. He says, "In the depths of winter, I found within me an invincible summer." And that idea of an invincible summer is the feeling of an advanced civilization. So, guys, Dan caught on to what I'm saying. Dan has said so. The architecture of the city is the skin of the collective octopus? Question mark. I'm saying potentially when we reach a point where, I mean, you can see it now, but it's like we're not conscious more than our sphere of awareness. We're kind of like candles right now that only consider our own light to be real. So imagine we had a room, and imagine we had different colored candles. Okay, somehow we had different colors of candles. You know, even the candle flames were different colors. Now imagine you took two of these candles, one with two different colored flames, and infused the two. You know, it's as if simultaneously those flames would be the same, but when you take the flames apart, they are still the same. It's like it's like it's valid in an individual dimension as one side of the coin, and then as a collective dimension on the other side. The collective is our unconscious. It's pretty much that sense of going towards the explorer. You know, in certain native cultures, like it's like what was life about, and it was that at some point the person would get a vision, would get a quest. That means when you were long enough in earth, something would speak out to you, something would interest you enough for you to go somewhere, you know. You see, Akai, I'm gonna respond to something you've written on the chat section because it, okay, you say people need to play out the dark side in a nurturing kind of way. Everyone is so action defining in their ambitions that there's no appreciation with their own experiences. Let me tell you this, that's not the case. We are action oriented, but that action oriented is self oriented. You act for yourself, even subconsciously. You don't realize it, you know? So that's the thing I'm trying to say, that we should stop judging the past because it's past. Only the future remains. If you're wise, you don't, Ernest Hemingway? He had this, I don't know if it was Mark Twain or Ernest Hemingway, one of these dudes. Like, he said, if you wrestle with a pig, you'll get muddy. He's like, don't wrestle with a pig, you'll get muddy. Don't engage the inefficient. Just take a step towards the efficient. That's it. That means if right now you think the world is messed up and all that, you're not in the state of seeing an advanced civilization. Let me tell you why. Because you're still looking at what you missed out on. After some point, you realize life was never something to hold. It's like endlessly, it is tunneling through dimensions of experience of existence. That means when I look at it existentially, I realize one day I just realized I'm like, even when I sleep, I still exist in the room. I'm just not conscious of it. So I realize my mind is like a sub program while the body is a program on its own. Now the sub program of the mind is so different in its ability and its access. Our inner realms are so fascinating, and people are not being taught about it. People are forgetting it. It's hilarious. It's like they in when you in reality, they say some people find their mind. Like that guy went to India and he found his mind. You see, that guy was in a messed up part of civilization. He lost his mind. Less messed up part of society. He lost his mind. But then when you go ask people, what is this mind that people are finding and losing constantly? You begin to see it's unknown. And I'm telling you, the unknown, knowledge is a thin ice on the unknown. And that's the why experience is so powerful when you realize you're an experiential creature. You're not just defined by your form. You are the awareness to the form. The awareness doesn't have a body, so it's kind of weird. It's like if the mind and body are in separate dimensions, the body can die. The mind, perhaps it never could die. You know. It's like our physical existence is like an ocean wave that subsides back into the ocean. All I know is that everything I have ever looked at in this life, I noticed that it could have had another possibility. You know how they say patience is a virtue? I think a lot of people hear that, but they don't know what it means. What it means is if you wait, you see more. That's the power of mindfulness. That's the real life sensitivity of the yogi. That there is something alive here, and it's not just atoms and words. It's not just the game of words and words. It's the presence of reality. It is how energy is conscious of itself regardless of what mask it wears. We are the now. That means all these people saying come to the here and now, all these Eckhart Tolle, clones. I'm joking. Eckhart Tolle is awesome. I don't know. I just feel that it's very common sense. You look at what you have and then you look at where it can go, and if you can see a better way it can move, you just make that move. It's kind of like chess. Really, everything in life is like chess. You know, who knew? Who knew that game was that important, you know? What does that mean? That means sometimes you make the first move. You are required in certain moments of life to trust the moment and be the active mover in the moment, you know? Because we don't understand the mind, we don't honor our mind. Because we don't honor our mind, we lock our attention on a loop of image and think that's who we are. Mr. Within wants to say, dear listener, what if you're unknown to yourself? What if you don't know enough to know the knower? Where would you be? And surprisingly, that instant is the instant where the knower is freed from the shackles of a conception based on the personality. You know, one day I kind of laughed really hard, and I'll tell you why. Because I noticed that all this time in my life I've been like, you know, why is the world rough? You know, why did that happen? Why did that happen? And I realized the self, that me that was suffering, that was impatient, that was ignorant, wasn't even physical. It was a view. It was how the mind of the person is an inner realm, actually. Let me tell you. So Akai says honoring our mind in America means narcissism. Lol, it's absurd in a way. I mean, no, I think the thing is, it's strange. I feel American culture, think of it this way. Think of all the nations of the planet as kids in a classroom. I want you to now imagine these kids in a classroom, they don't all get along, okay? But because the world is the teacher, you know, they respect the teacher, they're trying to get along, okay? Now, based on the history of the nation, there's something different. You know, America is a nation where it's had a civil war. It's had these constant dual events take place. You know, and what does that mean? That means it's like the maturing of a nation. So I consider America may have kind of done, you know, like I don't want to get into politics, but you know, it's like at the end of the day, we're painting the earth with colors and thinking, you know, this planet is you know, a bunch of small rooms, you know. Let me tell you, I feel that we are identifying with a broken ship, and we should never identify with a broken ship. Whoever you are, you know, here's the thing. It's like the person's wondering, should I have honor or should I not? Then somebody comes and says, buddy, this is the only place you can have honor. If you ever wanted to experience some sort of honor in your life, it's only in your conscious waking state, you know? So, what would that honor mean? That honor would mean that every human being, their ethnocentrism is like, imagine like a swamp they're in, and they suddenly with jetpacks get out of the swamp and fly into the air and observe the whole scene, and then fly into the right location and begin building. I honestly feel that the true instruction, what really is pulling human beings, was never an ideological thing, was never a belief. It was as if the world was building something and we were the Lego pieces that were foolish enough to think that the world was our Lego, you know, was our toy. No, 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 guys, I'm just telling you, every nation on this planet, or let me tell you this, the more you go back in history, the more savage people were, okay? The more savage people were. What does that mean? That means the more we're going forward in time, the less we're like, holy shit, were we killing each other without realizing it? We step out of that mindset and wonder about our advantage. Think of it this way. It's like, I don't know, it's like a feeling that you see in certain movies, like the general, uh, like for example in Gladiator, the Maximus would walk in and he would say strength and honor, and everybody would get pumped up. Yo, strength and honor, Maximus. you know. What you would see is that the honor was accepting the moment you're in and playing your part and seeing what happens. Sometimes I'm telling you, a lot of karmic turbulence is because the person uh, wants to be something that they think they are not. So even when they become it, they think they are not it. You know, Salvador Dali, this artist, wow, this guy is next level. He has this quote. He says, "Don't fear perfection. You'll never reach it." They were like, Salvador Dali, please inspire the children of the future generation. Salvador Dali was like, what he really meant by that statement, is that even if you attain a higher caliber of perfection in your life, you reach a certain destination you aimed for, you were piloting towards, you will see there is always an endless piloting possible. So for me, I'm like 8 billion creatures on a rock in the middle of nowhere. Think of it this way. Think of it, we all got bored and everybody started doing their own thing. Let's think of a hilarious narrative for evolution that way. And because boredom helped us evolve, we like through boredom we all started going our own way, and then eventually events take place. The way I see the advanced civilization being built is not people just going in their own, study pods and kind of like becoming an advanced being like that. Even though that's helpful, but I'm saying like the way it is effort will be made of honest. So the first thing is get 8 billion creatures to be honest. The second thing is, as they honestly live, inner collective events take place. You know, we have thought about extraterrestrial consciousness as a form. We have never thought about extraterrestrial consciousness as a mind. And we have never thought about our own consciousness as a field where phenomenology moves in. That means there is something that it's kind of like anytime I meditate or I sit down for a moment to just watch life and see how the world is breathing, you know, it's honestly a symbiosis of dimensions, higher dimensions. Literally, animals, if they could speak, they'd be like human beings or aliens, you know. But we call ourselves human. But to every animal, we are an alien. We're like freaking animals out, you know. That means a caged animal released in nature, it's too scarred to ever be just that natural animal. And we human beings, because we have tasted, have drank from the fountain of consciousness, you know, our game doesn't end only in the visible. So, Lucent Lunarian says, inspire others to be better. Change starts within, gradually providing a template for others via examples. Guys, I'm saying it like this. If the inner realms are not like a pond, the ripples of a pond settle, you won't even see your outer realms to help advance it. You know? I feel nobody knows what the better is, but we just know that there is something better. It's like the emotions are responding to the outer landscape plus the inner landscape. Like when a person feels emotional, it's as if the attention is experiencing multiple events, I feel. In Buddhism, I kind of was like, how do they see emotions? And they're like, when you are too stuck on a certain thought, emotions, the thought becomes unpleasant and emotion arises. And I was like, no way. Guys, I feel this is the strategy. First, Elon Musk had this, he said something very nice. He said, if we ask the right question, that's like the hardest part, finding what is the right question to ask. And for me, that question is how to build an advanced civilization before the lights go out. That is really it. Now, the way it goes about is right now there's a fragmentation. There is what I call Civilization 1.0, and I'm telling anybody who's listening to my talks, I'm saying Civilization 1.0, I've studied it, and let me tell you, we can't let go of our past. We can't let go of our past. You know, in Civilization 1.0, but Civilization 2.0 is the vision that it's fine. We let the past play its game. Whoever's in whatever's way civilization is built now, it's fine. It's just that we have to attempt the new. It's worth it. That's the problem. Even one day, the dark side of the moon will also see it is worth it. Even though the moon doesn't have a dark side, it's a sphere that's rotating. Yeah. I'm telling you, we have to take one step back from our ideological selfhood and belief system certainty and look at nature. When we look at nature, at most, you either update what's there, you use what's there, or you use what's there to create something new. That's the thing. I keep trying to say it's a new civilization, it's an advanced civilization. I feel the most important thing is starting a network, a global community where the minds of human beings kind of create a digital intellectual abode. You know, right now we're noticing something with the internet. I feel this is going to be maximized where it was like before uh, people would go to knowledge. Now, strangely, knowledge has come to people. And what do people do when they have access to information? You know, they scroll through it. They explore the realm. You know, the realm in full. Uh, what I'm trying to say is I've kind of envisioned the infusion of a Colosseum with the school of Athens and the whole world constantly seeing this kind of gladiator arena of the greatest ideas all over the planet coming, you know? Because the thing is, like, when you see those very heartbreaking commercials where the child in some country is stuck in poverty and you're like, look at this asshole cameraman filming this kid, not helping the kid. You know, he's like, all right, let's film this kid, then help him. You know, I mean, like, what kind of messed up human being is that? You know? But I guess on another level, you gotta show the cruelty, the messed upness of it. But anyways, what I'm saying is like in that commercial, you see that poverty-stricken child, and you know what breaks my heart? Not that that child is just suffering, but if that child had was in an advanced civilization, it could have been the next Einstein. You know, it could have been like some great contributive force. You know, Because communication is creative, and creativity has to do with a sort of alchemy between the known and the unknown. That means if you know all of it, how could it be something new? So you come to the unknown, and then with the honor of the unknown, your inner realms, the winds of evolution guide your inner realms. You know. So guys, somebody says, um, so on my morning runs, I pick up trash, and people see me. This plants a seed to be a good steward of the land. Yeah, man. Solution says this in the chat section. Let me tell you, I actually, when I was in the UK, Birmingham, it was savage, man. It was like, I was like, you know, it made me miss Canada because the way that the trash was like, it was as if the person didn't even have good aim, you know? Like the trash was like, I think the trash cans were too far from the sidewalk, so people would just throw their trash from a distance, you know? I feel we just have to. The human being by nature is an expressive creature. I'm not joking. Literally, like every parent is raising their child to speak, to communicate, and all this. And I feel this is echoing in everyone that we want to share, we want to be. You know, even those most powerful people in the world, they want to be something. They have dreams too. You know, you think billionaires don't have dreams?